Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business podcast. I am your host, Catryn Becker. In this podcast, we discuss all different aspects of business, from the good, the bad, and the ugly, what it's like to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, working in corporate, all different aspects, and the journey that it took to get you to that place. My guest this week is Hope Taylor, who works for the IV Society. Welcome to the show, Hope.
Thank you, Catryn. Yeah, how are you?
I am doing great, but I have a million questions about the IV Society because I know that I've seen a lot of things on social media and that really picked up during COVID of people coming into homes and like willingly getting stuck with an IV. And as someone with a fear of needles, I don't understand.
If I had $1 for everyone who tells me they're afraid of needles, I would be rich and be able to retire.
You
Nobody
wouldn't you
loves
wouldn't need to
needles.
work for the IV Society anymore.
Yeah, right. It's literally nobody loves needles, myself included. I don't enjoy getting stuck, but it's literally 1 second of a needle poke for all the amazing benefits of all the vitamins. So the way I go about it is saying it's totally worth it. I don't really have anybody who's gotten an IV from me who says, "Oh my God, I'm never doing that again." They always come back for more. So it is totally worth it. We are experienced. So I personally am have been a NICU nurse for a long time. So I've been sticking needles in premature babies' veins. So I feel like I'm pretty good with
Oh
adults.
my gosh, yeah,
So
you'd have to be like.
yeah. And so I've been sticking needles in little babies' arms. And so doing, adults, it's not intimidating to me. Even if someone thinks they're a hard stick or tells me they're afraid of needles, I can make that a little bit relaxing, and we can do some breathing and some aromatherapy if you choose before. So to kind of relax the situation, we try to make it as enjoyable as possible and as much of a relaxing spa-like experience as possible, so that, to take any of that anxiety out.
How long were you a NICU nurse? Because I did not know that about you.
I've been a nurse for 23 years now, and most of my career was NICU or pediatrics. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah.
So is that something you still do?
No, not anymore. I'm doing IV Society full time. I kind of slowly, built this so that I could leave the hospital. I've honestly wanted to leave the hospital setting for about 10 years of my career. Not because the babies or the mamas, I love them and I do miss that dearly, but just the politics and the schedule and the stress of hospital nursing, especially when COVID started, it just got even worse. I personally felt it's not for everybody. It's for a lot of people, and thank God we still have nurses who want to do that, but it just kind of wasn't for me. I'm more of a free spirit, and I just felt a calling to do something more. And when this opportunity was introduced to me, it was crazy because when the owner Claire approached me to do this, I actually told her no at first because I was
Really?
working. It's crazy how the universe works. I was working full time at the hospital. I also have a makeup and skincare business. I was hustling really hard because I really loved that company, and I still do, and the products. And I was like, I just don't even know when I could go out and do an IV. So I told her, I don't think I can, take this on right now. And the next day at work, there was a nurse working there that I've never met, didn't even know she worked with us. And she was working for a mobile IV company, and she was raving about it. And I said, "This is so strange that you're here. I've never even met you. And I literally was offered a job like this yesterday and I turned it down. And now you're making me reconsider." And I walked back into the nursery and I texted Claire and I said, "Hey, I think I want to try it. Like, I don't know when I'm going to fit this in, but this was like the universe slapping me in the face going, hello, you've been asking for an opportunity to leave the hospital. I handed it to you on a silver platter and you told it no." And they slapped me in the face and said, "I think you need to try this out." So I did. And then I literally said, "How long do you think it would take me to build up clientele enough that I could leave the hospital?" She said, 1 to 2 years. And I looked at her and I said, 6 months. I'm a hustler. I want out. When I put my mind to something, I do it. And I literally left the hospital in 6 months.
That is
And that was
incredible.
September. So almost 6 months out of the hospital now, and I have no regrets.
Well, that is such a good story and such a good point. Like, you know, not to get too much into, religion and spirituality. Not that we don't discuss that on this podcast. I've had many guests where we went really deep into God and religion and spirituality because, yes, this is business, but we are people in business. So we can't forget the peopleness of us. And, I feel like it's such a common thing for us to be asking for signs. we're always praying and asking for signs. But then when we get a sign, we're like, was that a sign? I'm going to question this. I've got doubts. I've got fears. I mean, I know I've experienced that so much in my life. And I always think of that movie from like, I don't know, probably the 90s, Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey. Do you remember that?
Yes. Great
So
movie.
in the beginning, he's like, God, send me a sign. And then like a truck full of like construction signs is right in front of him. Oh my gosh. I think of that all the time.
That's hilarious. I know, right? We tend to logically out of fear. You're right. It was fear. It was fear of the unknown. Like I remember going on the ride along with Claire and asking a million questions and being like, she is going to hate me. And it was all out of fear because I was like, I've been doing babies for so long. Like I don't know adults, and I don't know, since nursing school 20 years ago is when I learned about adult issues and medications and disease processes, and that's all changed. And so I'm so scared I'm going to go in these homes and these people are going to have these illnesses and I'm not going to understand them and know what vitamins are okay and what we're doing, is it safe? And she was like, Hope, at the end of the day, it's vitamins. You have a protocol. We have a doctor working with us. You can text us or call us if you have any questions. At the end of the day, it's vitamins. As long as you're following the protocol, you're not going to kill anybody. And I was like, oh. And she said, and you keep acting like you're at this disadvantage because you've been in NICU or with kids. She's like, none of us gave vitamins in the hospital. We don't give vitamins in the hospital. She's like, if anything, you're at an advantage because you're really good at IVs. And I was like, oh, you're right. And she just kind of gave me that little nudge. I needed to say, I can do this. Like, I'm being ridiculous. It was fear of the unknown, fear of change,
Yeah.
But
I always like to say that like faith, where faith lives, fear cannot.
yes. And that's been a big part of my journey since I said yes, is faith over fear, because the other unknown with this and the fear was not having a steady paycheck. This is, people don't want to pay for IV services every single day. Like it's not something people have in their budget and know a lot about. It's still a new process of wellness versus sickness care. And I hope that we're going in that direction. I think we are. But there's literally weeks of feast and famine. And I struggled with that at first. I would have anxiety and start freaking out like, oh my gosh, I've only done 2 IVs this week. I've only done 2 IVs this week. And then the next week I would have 35. And so I'm like, okay, obviously it's going to balance itself out. And I said that out loud to a girl I networked with. And she said, I do the same thing. And I was like, let's be each other's person. Like when we're having one of those days, let's text each other and remind each other to take the stillness in, to maybe go do some networking stuff that day, maybe do some marketing posts, maybe create some content. Like we can still be in our business and rest and know that the next week's probably going to be crazy and it's going to make up for that slowness. And that's just what's been happening. It's been 6 months. I haven't not been able to pay a bill yet. I've been very, very blessed, in fact. So we just have to kind of learn to accept that faith over fear and know that, the good Lord's got us. Let ourselves be guided.
And it's so great what you just said there. I mean, the phrase like consistency is key. And I think there's such a misinterpretation of what consistency is and what consistency means. Like I think there's this misconception that consistency means doing the exact same thing the exact same way day in, day out. And it's exactly as you said, that like you're still consistently working on your business, and those activities that you have to do within that are going to look different, but that's not being consistent.
Absolutely. There's a whole different aspects of that, right? And self-care is also part of that. I strongly believe in that. Like the better you are and the more healed you are, the more of your people you're going to attract. And so, a lot of my downtime I spend just working on me. I was just journaling before we got on this call. I did some meditation and yoga this morning, snuggle with the dogs, go for a walk, have some coffee or tea, go get a massage, go get a facial. Like I do all of those things, go to yoga class, all of those things for myself now, and really brought that into my work because it is vital to that. And the better of a person I am, the better provider I'm going to be for my clients and for my business. So I think that has to be a big part of it. So instead of taking those slow times to freak out or have anxiety, take them to go do something for yourself or to do something else for your business.
Yeah. My business coach likes to say that like broke people are busy being busy, and successful people are busy being productive.
Right.
And that you can have it all if you schedule it all.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
and I think it's so true that, you know, you're not doing all of those things all of the time and you're not doing them all at once, but how you sprinkle them into your day to really feed that energy so that you're ready for the next thing. I mean, there's seasons and everything. You know,
Absolutely.
we couldn't be in summer all the time.
Yep.
You know, we need those rest periods and those reset periods. So I think that's
Absolutely.
really important. So another question that came to my mind as you were speaking was about the idea of healthcare just in general. And gosh, it's a whole another ball of yarn or whatever the phrase is. But from what I have seen, and I'd love your interpretation and what you have seen about this, is do most people call you when they already are sick and they are coming to the IV Society as a reactionary? Like, are you seeing any change in people proactively doing it? Like, hey, I know I have a trip next week and I'm gonna have to be on a plane. Maybe I should see you first to prevent getting sick.
It's a lot of both. It's a mixed bag for sure. I love the wellness people. I don't mind the sick at all, but I do love the wellness because it really lets me see where we're going, because I think that's where we need to be. I actually read a book that's really good. It's called Vitamin Health. It's by a functional medicine doctor that's up on the East Coast, Northeast Coast. And he said it really well, and I've quoted it and posted it a few times, that we live in a world of sickness. So we live in a world that's in a healthcare system that's focused on sickness and taking care of people who are miserable and nearly dead, but trying to stay alive. And we've made that a business. We've made that a very successful, lucrative business. And we've created all these millionaires out of people's misery and despair. And that really isn't where we want to be. Like, we really want to be in a place where we keep people well and have people living longer, healthy lives instead of extending life on all these medications with all these extra side effects, and people are just still getting more and more miserable and on more and more medications. So I do think the answer is wellness. And I mean, not only in IV and vitamin wellness, there's a million, wellness opportunities out there. And now that I'm in this world, it has opened up this like this whole thing for me. So I have all of these amazing wellness, holistic, alternative medicine people just coming out of the woodwork, that I'm learning about all these different modalities as far as energy healing, plant medicines, acupuncture, acupressure, massage, breathing techniques, just a million different things. And when you can do all of these things and bring this all into your wellness, then maybe you don't need to ever have sickness and go that route to, there's medicine. I think there's a beautiful middle ground of Eastern and Western, or alternative and modern medicine coming together. And
Yes.
that's where we need to be. For so long, so much of our doctors here and our medicine here has been against all the other stuff. Oh, chiropractors are quacks and alternative medicine people are a bunch of quacks and you can't trust them and it's crazy. And then all the super crunchy people are like, oh, don't take any medications, it's all poison. But that's not true. Like, there's a beautiful place for medicine, and some people really truly need that, but it shouldn't be all that we rely on. We need to be getting back to the core of what's going on, healing our energies, healing our minds, and making sure we're addressing mind, body, and soul all together instead of just symptoms, throwing medications at it. We're creating more symptoms. And then nobody addresses that the root cause of most of those symptoms are the medicines you're on.
Or even looking at the root cause from the very beginning.
Yeah. And it's been making me crazy for a very long time. And coming from a hospital world of when you speak your mind, or if you say like, hey, that's probably from the medications you're on, then the doctor comes grab you and throws you in a corner and chews you out because you overstepped a boundary. So, that world is stressful for people like me who have a lot of intuition. And I'll get hits where I'm like, I know exactly what's going on with this person, but I can't diagnose them. I can't step on the doctor's toes. I can't say anything. I'm going to get fired. It's been hard to be in that world for 20 years. It started to literally kill my soul. And now that I'm in this world, it's just like, woo, like a whole world opening up.
And it's almost like, in like the Marvel movies and stuff, and they talk about the multiverse and like all these different dimensions. It feels like, because I did the same thing. I came from environmental engineering, very like, I don't believe in this crap. Like, this is all just total craziness. And it took one person being persistent for me to try it. And then I was like, Oh, dang.
Wow. Once it's opened.
Yeah. And then I kind of like, okay, I'm going to put a toe in.
Yeah.
And then a little bit more. And then, now completely in this world. And I can still see the other world. And I can still, love the people that are there. And just I hope you find your way. I hope you
I
find your
feel
door and walk through
exactly
it.
the same way. And just maybe for those little people wanting to dip their toe or curious, we're that bridge to bring it in. That's where I feel like I am right now. Because yeah, I think a lot more people want to go this way and are curious about it. And I think this is the way we're heading. There's a universal shift happening right now. And I think we're all heading that way. And I'm happy to be a conduit for it.
Yeah, and people talk about wanting change all the time, but then they never do the thing. They never try something new. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so unhappy with my life. I'm so stressed out. I'm all these things. And it's like, well, here's something that you could try. And it's like, oh, that doesn't work. Well, how
Yeah.
how do you know? You haven't tried it.
Yeah. And we can't, I'm really, really good about that and very careful about that. Because even for me in my own healing and with my journey, there was a time like when that time came for me, I stepped in. And so I'm not a pushy person about it. I don't think my way is the only way. I'm very, very open to how everyone's feeling in that moment and in that time. And I'm happy to just be a little small ripple and mention or share my story and just have it in their brain. So when they're ready, they're like, hey, you said something to me that I can't stop thinking about. And I think I'm
Mm.
ready. And that's all I want to be. I don't want to push anything anybody's uncomfortable with. Everybody needs to be ready in their own time. That's a integral, or is that the right word? A very important
Integral.
part of
Yeah.
it is that it's for you to be ready in your own time, because that's when it's going to happen. It's not anything anybody can force on you. And I see that a lot with different modalities of people like kind of pushing their way or their ego and their journey on people, and that's not my intention at all.
Well, I mean, it's goes back to the analogy of planting seeds. People love to say, "Oh, we're just planting seeds, we're planting seeds." Yeah, but are you looking at the soil type,
Yeah.
like is the soil ready for
Is it
this?
ready?
Is this the right seed for this soil? Like, and then once the seed is planted, how are you watering it? How are you fertilizing it? How are you making sure it gets the right sunlight? Like there's
Exactly.
there's all of those pieces that are so important, and time is irrelevant, yet timing is everything.
It is everything. And you asked earlier about like, seeing sickness or wellness people, and there is a mixed bag of both. And we've done so much. The IV vitamin therapy that we're doing now has done so much for disease processes and things that doctors seriously don't know what to do with, that being autoimmune disease, like I call them the garbage can symptom syndromes that a lot of people are suffering with, as well as post-COVID syndrome. um, One of my very good friends is one of my favorite stories, and I tell it to a lot of my clients because she had COVID, and she had been completely vaccinated. She's a nurse, and she had COVID, and she was knocked down pretty hard with it and never got back from it. She was a marathon runner before getting COVID. After COVID, she could barely work, much less run.
Wow.
She ended up having a lot of gut problems. She was going to a functional medicine gastroenterologist who really helped her through a lot of that. And then she also started having some brain stuff. She was having vertigo, tinnitus, very, very foggy, where she couldn't complete thoughts, couldn't really get through a workday because she just didn't feel like she was safe, because she couldn't complete thoughts, couldn't think of the right things she was supposed to be doing. I was begging her for months to let me infuse her because I knew I could help her. I knew it. And she was real hesitant. She's like, I want to get all my vitamin levels checked. I'm like, I don't care what your vitamin levels tell you. I'm giving you the same infusion, but go ahead, whatever makes you happy. And she finally let me infuse her. And I've infused her 3 times now, with 1 month apart from each, with a Myers cocktail plus NAD therapy. But after that first one, the message I got from her was, oh my God, you gave me my life back. Like, I feel
Mm.
like me again. I went take a walk and started to run a little bit today, like the first day after the infusion. Now she's had 3. She just finished a marathon this weekend, the marathon weekend. She did her marathon, and she's completely herself again. She's completely back. She's completely back at work. She's running. She's doing marathons. And this was, we started her therapy 3 months ago. So it's just, that's my favorite testimony to tell, because she's such a poster child for me. And the messages I've gotten from her have just been beautiful. And that's what we're doing for people. Like, I'm not trying to change the world, but if I can just change one person and get them their life back, that's huge. I have
Yeah.
another lady. Do I have time to tell one more
Yeah.
testimonial?
But and I just wanted to interject real quick, and we'll get back to the testimonial. But people think they're getting the vitamins they need from our food, like even if they're eating, vegetables and everything. But I am blessed to be in a position where I can grow a garden, and the difference between the food that I've grown myself versus what I can get in the grocery store is night and day. And
Yeah.
it's a shame because I can't grow everything here. I mean, here in the Houston area, we can grow quite a lot. We've got a good season, but I can't grow everything. So I still have to buy stuff from the grocery store. And, if a certain crop doesn't grow right, I still have to buy it from the grocery store, and I can tell such a difference. So I
Yeah,
think what you're
it's
doing with
true.
being able to get vitamins to people in such a absorptive way. And I'd love to hear more about the difference between taking a vitamin supplement versus getting it in IV, and why you would choose one or the other. Do you do both? Like, how does that work as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do think diet is huge. I do think a lot of the reason a lot of our society is sick is because of where our diet went and fast food and just non-nourishing foods. So, and then again, our soils have changed with environmental stuff. And so even when we do eat healthy foods, they're not always full of the minerals and vitamins that they used to have. So we are tending to have more of a deficit. Oral vitamins do work. Certain ones in certain ways. So the difference is oral vitamins, depending on what you're taking, like if you look and read closely, most of them have instructions. Like, for example, turmeric is really great for inflammation, but it needs to be taken with black pepper. So if you're just having some turmeric and you didn't take it with black pepper, or you took it with other vitamins, it could be not absorbed. So there's a lot of things when you're taking vitamins, you really have to see, am I supposed to be taking it with food, with other vitamins, without food, with a whole cup of water, with milk, with pepper? Like, what are you supposed to be taking these things with for max absorption? And then max absorption of those vitamins is typically about 20% of what it says on the bottle. So if you're getting like a 2000 milligram vitamin C, you're probably getting about 200 milligrams of vitamin C. Even if you take it correctly, which is still good. It's still good vitamin C, but you're not really getting like 2000 milligrams like you think you are. So I'll have people who are like, oh, I don't need the vitamin C in my IV because I take it. I'm like, nope, I'm still giving it to you. um,
But
and
it's
so
important to have that understanding, because
yeah, it is. And so a lot of times for like vitamin D, for example, I'll give you a shot of vitamin D. If I know you're low, then I say, start taking it orally. You're good. Like, I just got you back where you needed to be. And then on oral vitamin D, you should be perfect. Like, you shouldn't need another shot. If you do, there might be something that we need to go deeper. You need to get some more testing and see what's going on, because that's not something you should be that super low on all the time if you got a shot of it and you're taking a supplement for it. And so it's a good thing to have us come get you back to that level, then go on some great oral supplements. Make sure you're on a good oral supplement. Not, there's a lot. That's the other problem, is we don't know what's real and what's not, because we have a lot of these fillers and things like that in our supplements now too, because it's not regulated. So that's a whole nother bag to look into. So, there's a lot to what you were just saying, for sure. But I do believe in a healthy diet. That does matter for sure. That should be step one. There's a lot of evidence, with clean eating, that we can reverse diabetes and heart disease. And with vitamin therapy, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff in the studies that I have read and that I have seen, where we can literally stop some disease processes in their track with adequate diet and vitamin therapy.
Well, that is amazing. Would you like to do that other testimonial before we wrap up?
Yes. So my other favorite testimony, and I have been infusing this lady every month almost since I started, maybe since about April of 2022. When she came to me, she had nobody knew what to name it, but they called it just an autoimmune disease. And I've told her now that I think her family should get genetic tested, because I actually infused several members of her family because they all have weird stuff, and most of it's inflammation. She was having weird inflammation in her mouth, her gums, her tongue. That was her main weird symptom that nobody could figure out.
How would
So they were just
someone
like,
know if they had inflammation in those areas? Like, what does that
if you have
present
pain
as?
or just swelling, like her gums and her tongue would get literally red, painful, inflamed, where she was having trouble eating, talking, all these things, because she just had all this inflammation in her mouth. I sometimes have inflammation in my joints in my hands, which is some of it's arthritis related. And then some of it can be, I'll know because I haven't either had my infusion, or my diet's been off, or I've been under stress, or not in a good energetically place. And that's when I'll feel that. And then when I get all those things in queue, all of that pain goes away. And that's basically what she was having happen. So, she gets infused again, a Myers cocktail with NAD, monthly. And it's kind of kept all that in check. I'm not curing anything. There's something genetically that they're all having that's causing them to have this weird stuff, but I'm keeping the inflammation in check with those things. So she's been a poster child too. She's sent me so many referrals because she's seen like such a difference it's made for her and her life. And like I said, her daughters have other things, like one of them has seizure disorder, one of them has migraines, like they all have things that nobody can really find root causes for. And I can't either. I think there's something genetically, that probably they've had in their family. She said even her dad and his family had all these weird things and syndromes. And so I was like, you might think about getting genetic tested, like just to know, for future generations, what maybe is going on. And then for now, this is working and we're keeping everybody in check with just keeping inflammation down with just regular once a month IVs. So it's working for them. So that's just another great testimony for like autoimmune disease and what we're doing for people like that who just really can't get answers and don't want to be on 100 medications that they don't even know are working and are just causing more side effects.
Right. Well, I don't know about the listeners, but you've convinced me. I'm willing to give this a try. Nothing changes when you say no.
Yeah, you never
Anything
know how
can
good
happen
you'll feel
when you
after.
say yes.
Absolutely. The doors that open. I mean, meeting Claire, the owner of this company, and getting me to this place I am right now was all because I took a chance on a makeup and skincare direct sales company. Like I didn't want to do that. I'm a nurse. I had no intentions of ever selling anything. And I jumped in on this opportunity because a friend of mine gave me some products and I fell in love. And I thought, wow, that changed me and changed my skin. I've battled acne my whole life, and now I'm no longer battling acne. I need to just scream this from the rooftops and help other people with the same problem. And then I was doing a vendor event with that job when I met Claire, and she's the owner of this company. So we became friends because we connected at that event. She saw, became my Facebook friend, saw how I marketed things. So when she started IV Society, she's like, hey, I really want people like you on my team. I know you know how to help me grow the business and market yourself. I know how you present yourself. And I know you're a great nurse. And so that's kind of how I got here. So had I said no to that door opening, I may not be where I am now. So you just never know. You can always try something and say, that wasn't for me, and go away. You're not joining a cult by getting an IV. Time is not for you. I don't ever have to come stick you again, but you never know how great you might feel after. And that's more often than not, that's the case.
So you serve the Houston area, Montgomery County specifically?
The IV Society as a company, we have providers in all of the greater Houston area now. So I personally am in Spring. I have gone out as far as Cypress and Katy. I have gone to Montgomery and Conroe. I love to stay in the Spring Woodlands Tomball area. That's my preferred area just because I can get to more people if I'm not driving an hour each way. But if I have somebody who really needs me and nobody else can get to them further away, and I have the time, I can do that as well. So we've grown. When I started with the company, I think there were 5 or 6 providers, and now I think there's 40 of us. So that's how big we've grown in 1 year. We're just continually growing and spreading out so that we can service the whole greater Houston area.
Well, that's fantastic. So for those listeners that are in the Houston area, and are intrigued, definitely reach out to Hope. I will have all of her contact information in the notes for this episode. And for those of you in different locations, she does do other things other than the IV Society. So if you just felt connected to her and drawn to her, reach out, have a meeting, get on a phone call, get on a Zoom, and just see what could be, because you never know unless you try.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
You can also follow us at theivsociety.com for more information about the IVs, or if you're not in my area and want a different provider to come out, the main number's on there to just call out and have somebody get assigned to perform the IV for you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing this. It's so great hearing from a nurse as well. I mean, what a great just story in general. So thank you so much. And for the listeners, thank you so much for supporting this podcast and learning about all of these amazing people. I will have another fantastic guest on next week. Please like and subscribe so you'll be notified and won't miss a single one. Until next time, take care.